I guess.
Yes. All right, everyone, welcome. Recording. I am so excited to have Jennifer Wilkov back with us again today. She has been a very kind and generous sponsor and supporter of our community for multiple years now. I think this is year 3, if not 4. It's been a few years. She brings so much knowledge and just great stuff to our community. And one of the most interesting things about your book is your hook is that they do something that a lot of publishing consultant companies aren't as involved in, or I don't know anybody else who's doing this really key niche into screenwriting, connection with agents, getting your books on TV shows and on the big screen and all of that. So that's really cool. If you see on her background, she's got book writers, screenwriters, script writers, playwrights, ghostwriters, freelance writers. So they operate within the entire sphere of things that are going on. So I'm really excited, and thank you so much for continuing to support the event, to sponsor the event so we can keep the pricing as low as possible, and as always for bringing your knowledge to these free webinars so that people who can't attend the conference can still gain valuable insights. So just a couple of housekeeping things for those of you watching live with us today. Don't forget there is a Q&A button. Please put your questions in that Q&A button. We have a very engaged community and a lot of stuff happens in the chat. So if you have a question you want to make sure that Jennifer answers, use that Q&A box. This is being recorded. It will be loaded to YouTube and sent out as quickly as possible as we can after the event. You'll receive that information in email, or you can go over to our YouTube channel, which is actually under the Mama Company, Write, Publish, Sell. If you're not currently subscribed to us, go to youtube.com/Write, Publish, Sell, and you can see all of our sponsor webinars. Okay, that's all I have to say today. We're so happy to have you here with us as we count down. I think it's 26 days until the conference. We are really excited and pumped up, and welcome, Jennifer. I'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. I'm going to share some slides, Alexa. Before I begin, I want to just share with all of you that I was just selected as the top motivational speaker, business consultant, and best-selling author by the International Association of Top Professionals for 2024. So that's a brand new thing. I am a #1 international best-selling award-winning author and an award-winning freelance writer. And as Alexa so kindly said, I am a creative consultant for writers and creators. And so with that, we are going to get into it so we can actually get you what you came for, which is how do I publish and what are my options? And this is a question I get so many times. So I want to make sure that we spend our time today productively on you. And so this is who I am, this is what just happened, and this is what I do. So let's rock and roll. Please put questions in the Q&A because it's hard to see that moving chat. Today, we're going to identify all your options. We're going to understand what is required to publish each way. This is a question I get oftentimes. How you determine the right ways to publish your book. The secret to strategically planning when you're going to publish each way you want to. Yes, you don't have to publish a single way anymore. There's so many options in the multimedia world now. We're going to talk about that. Foolproof ways to choose how you publish. So you can, you can use your book as your hook in your industry, business, organization, project, or career, because you should. But oftentimes people make mistakes. So we'll talk about that. Top strategies to leverage your book for various audiences, opportunities, and markets. And proven techniques to use your book to reach beyond, like Alexa was saying, Hollywood film and television producers and the media. I was just on a call last evening with the Coast, with a bunch of producers that were in the San Francisco area. So it's not just limited to Hollywood and LA, it's producers here in New York, it's producers all over, including Europe and beyond. So let's get started. So what are your options? So if you are in the book lane, and that is where you are writing right now, You've got 5 choices. You can traditionally publish with a literary agent and a large publisher, where the large publisher requires the book to come through an agent. So they're not going to talk to you until they have accepted the book that the agent has submitted. So you're going to submit to the agent, and then the agent is going to submit for you. We'll talk about that chain of custody. Second way, traditionally without an agent, there are small, medium, and large publishers, yes, large publishers, who do not require an agent for you to submit. And we'll talk a little bit about that and what's required. You can also self-publish and electronically publish, which is very popular these days. There are reasons for people to self-publish and e-publish, and there are reasons not to self-publish and e-publish first. And we're going to talk about why that's incredibly important. Audiobook publishing. Nowadays, audiobooks are one of the fastest growing parts of our industry. People listen and rely on audiobook publishing when they're commuting, when they're working out, and whole other reasons why they want to use an audiobook. We're going to talk about why that's a very viable option and why there are a lot of audiobook publishing companies that have popped up, and why we do it at Your Book is Your Hook. Okay. So let's talk about what's required each way. So let's get right into the details with the first way. This is literary agent and large publisher. So part of what you want to keep in mind is I'm going to talk about all 3 kinds of books. I'm going to talk about fiction, nonfiction, and children's, because I work with all of them at Your Book is Your Hook. I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. All the industry changes and all things that have come up are going to be part of this conversation, and it constantly changes. So for fiction, it hasn't changed. You still need a query synopsis and your first 3 chapters. No, not chapter 7, 10, and 19. That's not a good representation. And for nonfiction, it's query letter and book proposal, including your first 2 chapters. Not chapter 5 and chapter 19 either. And for children's, it's query letter synopsis, manuscript text, and sample illustrations if you have them. They're not a requirement, but if you have an illustrator or you have illustrations, you need to be able to send samples. So quick information about first. Why am I using first instead of just 3 chapters or 2 chapters? Agents and publishers want to know, how are you getting me in the book? First sentence, first paragraph, first page, first chapter. How are you going to get me to read that? And how are you going to get me to read the rest? And so I can read the synopsis so I understand the book. And I can read the book proposal, which is a sales brochure for your book, which we'll talk about. But I want to see those first 2 chapters. Okay, so let's keep going. So traditionally with a literary agent and a large publisher, is always your first best work has to come forward. People say, well, I'm going to submit it to them and they'll edit it for me. No, they won't. They're going to make their judgment about whether they want to represent your book or publish it based on the condition they receive it in. So if you haven't edited your book and it's riddled with punctuation, grammatical, development issues, character issues, plot issues, they're going to reject it based on what they saw, not say, oh, this has a lot of potential. I think we should take this on and work on it for a year. That's not what they do. They're looking for what their job is. An agent's job is to find the best quality projects that they are interested in and want to represent, and then they bring it to the publishers. And so if it's not in a quality that they can feel they represent, they're going to reject it, and they're going to tell you that they will. So traditionally with the literary agent, you don't want to rely on that editor myth. Again, it's not how you get a publishing contract. So what you really want to do is get with the people, the professionals who actually know what they're looking for, know what they want, and can help you craft that with the idea and story you're telling. Polishing a manuscript. So this slide, I'm just going to hit on that because I have been the 3rd and the 4th editor for books. I am a polishing editor. as well as a developmental online editor. I'm a member of the Editorial Freelancers Association. And this is a really important step for people. I've seen projects where they're like, oh, I just need somebody to come in and sweep it. And it's like, well, you have a lot more going on in here than just that. So polishing is important. Another quick example, I had a public relations company bring me in to edit one of their clients' books that had already been edited twice. They hired me and I caught a misquotation of Martin Luther King in their book. And they told me for that one catch, among others, it was worth every penny. So you don't want to be put in a situation like that. So for traditionally, again, we're talking about fiction here, right? So the manuscript needs to be completed before you submit your project for consideration. Why? That doesn't mean that you can't pitch it if it's not done. But if you're going to submit it through the query process, your book should be done. And the reason why you should do that is because when you get a partial request, when you get a manuscript request, you want to respond. And you need to know how the story is fashioned from start to finish, the story arc, which is something we work with in our synopsis webinar and also workshop, because we want to make sure that when you are telling your story and when you're submitting it in a query and the synopsis, that's a story they get. So it should be done. Okay. Nonfiction. Nonfiction is the query letter, the book proposal I mentioned, and those first two chapters, but you don't need to write the whole book. What you really need to do is write, complete, edit, and polish the first two chapters that you can make part of that proposal as your sample chapters. That's really important, but you can actually put a when date, a by when date in your proposal of when you are planning to complete your book. And you should actually have a plan to do that so you know when that is. Is it 6 months out, 9 months out? Is it in the spring? And right now it's the winter. What is it? And tell us. Okay, getting more specific. So you want to make sure you have all these elements in your book proposal. So you need a rockin' overview. You need a market summary about what's going on in your target audience and why and how many numbers and how many people and marketing and promotion. What have you already got? This is a business that is not what are you going to do business. And so now what do you got? And what are you going to build on, especially in nonfiction? Because if you want a literary agent and you want a large publisher, you're going to have to prove that you have an audience. Plus, why you and comp titles. We also have a comp titles clinic at Your Book Is Your Hook now to help authors actually do that as well. For children's, you need to have the things I mentioned, and your manuscript has to be written, complete, edited, and polished. So if you're writing a 1,000-page picture book, for example, then that's for small children. Oh, and let's talk about the word children for a moment, shall we? There are lots of children. So there are young itty bitty children that want board books, and there are other children who are in the nursery school, kind of kindergarten range, right? And then you have the 5 to 8-year-olds who are first, second, thirdish grade. Then you have the tweeners, right? And those are the middle grade. So when you're thinking about children's, you're going to need to be more specific. And so some agents don't want board books. Some agents don't need you to have an illustrator. You need to pay attention. And so it's important for you to define your own book in our lane in the publishing field. Okay, traditionally without an agent. So I'm a member of the elite women's media group within the publishing field with very large publishers who run publishing houses and agents who run agencies and PR people who run professional agencies. So this is something that you need to understand is not every single publisher wants you to have an agent, and you don't need them. There are small, medium, and large publishers in different disciplines where you can actually submit the same thing. But they're not going to require you to go through an agent. They're going to have their own submission process. So you need to know who they are and what they do. Don't be fooled. Some publishers are hybrid publishers. Other publishers are you're going to pay to play, and you're going to just pay them as a vanity publisher to do the publishing for you. And other publishers will actually do all of what they're going to do, and they're not going to charge you for it because they're actually going to take a part of your earnings as part of what you do with them and make it part of their portfolio. Then, so that's traditionally without an agent. So traditionally means you're going to go to a publisher, they're not going to charge you a cent, and they're going to publish the book and make it part of their portfolio. So just remember, don't traditionally means traditionally. Okay. Self and e-publishing. So what's required? You have to have your book content complete, front matter, back matter, manuscript, cover copy, endorsements. Everything needs to be ready before you start the publication process. We shepherd books at Your Book is Your Hook. We help you from start to finish with every stage of self-publishing and electronic publishing. So this is, something that we also help people with. And self-publishing and e-publishing is a decision that you make after you've decided you are no longer going to try to traditionally publish. Let me repeat that. This is something you do after you have made the decision. You are not going to traditionally publish, either with or without an agent. Why? Because when you start e-publishing and self-publishing, if you don't get sales, then you try to come to me, which often people do because I'm the literary agent matchmaker everybody wants to work with, and say, I'm ready for an agent, Jennifer. Because the first thing I'm going to ask you is it published or unpublished? The minute you tell me it's self-published, I'm going to ask you, how many copies have you sold in the first 3 months? And if your answer is not an answer that's thousands of books, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be one of those conversations where I tell you, now you're in the self-publishing lane and you need to amp up your marketing and you need to actually prove that you have a platform before you're going to try and entice an agent with a self-published publishing career. Nowadays, you can make a decision. You can make a decision between having a publishing house with their name on your book, or you can do it yourself. Like we at Your Book is Your Hook, when we self-publish and e-publish, we actually help people with all the parts of the process, design, while editing, design, and also production of the files required. We help you publish it out. We help you produce it. We even are working on a spiral cookbook right now. So we do lots of different things, from hardcover with the dust jacket and knot, and also paperback. But electronic publishing is really important too. We also distribute, and you can distribute to thousands of ebook selling points around the world. And so self and e-publishing have really elevated since they came around the corner as the Wild West years ago. I remember speaking at the self-publishing book conference here in New York. So there's lots of options there. You're going to need a designer for your book cover and interior layout. You're going to need design files for a printer or distributor you choose to work with. You're going to financially foot the entire thing yourself. You're going to pay for publishing. You're going to pay for production of those files. You're going to pay for distribution of the project, and so on. Like when we work with people, we help them get into libraries, and we help them get into booksellers, large and small, local booksellers, so they could do events, lots of different points of distribution, but you're going to pay for all of that yourself. Important difference: self-publishing and e-publishing. Don't spend that money or time on your query letter. Excuse me. Don't spend that time on your query letter. Don't spend your money on a book proposal, getting help. Don't start writing sample chapters. You're writing real chapters. And your illustrations, those are going to be required because now you're going to need them to publish. Audiobook publishing, as I mentioned, is really elevating in this industry. It's something that a lot of people rely on now. When they find out about a book, they go and they see if it's been published on Audible or another audio site like Apple, and there are lots of them. Okay. This is something where In order to create an audio book, you cannot record something that is not complete. So you have to finish your manuscript and it has to be completely done, something that has been sent to publish and distribute before you're going to create an audio book, because it needs to match the book published. You're going to need a production team to record, edit, produce, publish, and distribute it. You also have, if you work with people like us and some other people, you can hire a voiceover talent. If you say, oh, I don't want someone to hear my voice, or I don't like my voice, or whatever it is, and you don't want to do it, you can have somebody else do it. People who are well-known and people who are not known at all have other people read their books for their audiobooks. So this is not something to be self-conscious about. It's a decision you make as an author, and you're going to pay to publish and produce and distribute the project unless you have a deal with a publishing house where audiobook publishing is included. Okay? But look at your royalties before you sign that dotted line and give that away, because that is a facet of your book that you are giving the proceeds away if it's part of your deal. Again, no query letter, no book proposal required, no sample chapters or illustrations. This is not one of those things. It has a separate design for the cover of the audiobook. So that's something that your designer is going to need to do, or the designer of the company you're working with for publishing is going to design for you if it's part of your package. Let's look at stats, because I'm a stats girl. I pay attention to the industry. So if you look in 2021, 2.2 new book titles were published globally that year. This was post-pandemic, right? At a rate of nearly 2,500 per day. So this has only increased. So everybody's writing a book. So it's always a good time for you to be writing yours. Again, although print books are still the most popular format, in 2019, 65% of people read a print book, 25% of adults read an ebook. Ebook is even higher now, and audiobook is kicking butt as well. So who's the biggest book market? Well, it's online, it's Amazon and other app-based options. But digital publishing and online sales of books have surpassed physical retail. So people are doing less of walking into their local bookseller or into a larger big box store and buying books. They're really buying them online and either having them shipped or they're reading them online. Adult nonfiction books have grown to 22.8% in the last 5 years. This is a category that just continues to skyrocket. This is one of those areas where if you've got a story to tell, it's a true story, it's a methodology you have, it's a historical book where you've actually researched a particular history point, then this is something that you want to be able to be aware of. This is an area that people are avidly reading. And Amazon sells about 60% of all the books, including, millions of self-published titles. So it is an outlet for self-publishing, but I don't want you to think you can only publish on Amazon, because you're going to get stuck in what I call Amazon jail. And that's not good, because people come to me all the time and tell me their book isn't selling. And my first question is, where did you publish? And they say, oh, I published on Amazon and Kindle. And I say, okay, that's great. But libraries and no bookseller ever said that they were going to go to Amazon and buy a book and stock it on their shelves. Think about that. That's Amazon jail. Okay, let's keep going. A print book is not as popular today, okay, but it's audiobooks. Remember I was talking about that? Everybody has a device. So they're reading ebooks, they're listening to audiobooks. They have other options. And if they go on vacation, they don't want to fill their suitcase and take up the weight that is going to push them over the requirement with books. If you're going to go for 2 weeks and you want to bring 10 books with you, it's a lot easier to bring them on your device. digital publishing is dynamite for children's books. I get this question all the time because now there's so much technology that you can integrate into it. It's really a fantastic opportunity. And nowadays, there are decks of cards that you can, we also now publish decks of cards and help people do that through Your Book is Your Hook, because decks of cards are also part of digital publishing. And there's now an outlet that makes it electronic as well for an experience for kids with decks of cards that they can either hold in their hand or they can digitally interact with. So 20% of US consumers have listened to an audiobook. They just this number keeps rising. And just remember that audiobooks have had continuous growth for the last 12 years, okay? And so year over year, it grows like more than 14%. And so it's one of those numbers that just continues to increase. But it's ebooks that are really the ones that are capitalizing. People are capitalizing on our digital environment and more turning to ebooks. So that's driven by Amazon Kindle, but not limited to it. Last piece is the independent authors. This is one of the things that when you just go publish on Amazon, you're not necessarily publishing and taking advantage of the audiobook trend. You're going to need to explore that. And when you publish only on Amazon, then you're only publishing on Kindle. And you're not getting into Canada, like with Kobo, and you're not getting into other environments over in Italy and Germany and UK and a bunch of other places that actually have ebook distribution points because you're stuck on Amazon. Okay, so Amazon may control 50% of the ebook market and host over 200,000 Audible books, right? But they're actually going to public libraries. So if you're not in the library, you're missing out. So if you think about the library, so I always love talking about this as a distribution point, 326 million pieces of digital content were downloaded in libraries. So if you think libraries are not like part of your plan, I think you might want to think again, because they have shelves just like the bookseller. So people go to the library because they're interested. And when they want to write in that book and be able to use their highlighter or keep the book because they want to have it for their child, they go buy it. So in 2020, ebook checkouts from libraries had a 52% increase year over year. Okay, the libraries continue to do this. People say, well, you know, the pandemic. Well, no, not the pandemic. People learned during the pandemic that the digital space is a complete shelf for them, for books in all forms that they would actually use it and have learned to consume them in a whole new way. So let's talk about publishing your book more than one way. So I mentioned that you might actually publish a paperback, or maybe you're going to come out with a hardcover and then you're going to publish a paperback, and then you're going to release an ebook, and you're going to have an audiobook, and you might have a deck of cards that also is associated with your book. That's 5 things I just mentioned that you can actually do with your book. Depending on what your book is, right? Fiction, nonfiction, or children's. These are really things that you can take advantage of, and you don't have to do them all at the same time. So one of the things about publishing your book more than one way is that it gives you more opportunities to release your book in succession. So if I'm actually Random House and I have a publisher that I decide that, or I have a client, an author who I'm going to publish, and I'm going to start with a hardcover, you usually don't see the hardcover and the paperback come out at the same time. You actually see them produce the hardcover first, and then they come around with the paperback. Why? Because they come around with the paperback release a couple of months later or even a year later. Why? Because they actually are going to bring it around again in a new form, because the people who were looking for it in a paperback couldn't get it. And so either they bought the hardcover or they looked for it, or they may come out with the hardcover and the audiobook, or the hardcover, the audiobook, and the ebook. And for you as a self-publishing person, you have to decide, how are you going to do it? Because guess what? You're the publisher. But be creative. Publishing is an art and a science. So understanding how you're going to do this and knowing when to publish and distribute is important, because then you can create what I like to call momentum, because it is. Your book is your hook, right? How people actually use your book is how you're going to get them to read it. And so if you're trying to reach a market and a target audience that likes digital products, then you better have digital products for them. So you could have a digital ebook, you could have a digital audiobook, you could have a digital deck of cards, you could have lots of different things. And so it gives you the opportunity to tap into who's your market. If your market is older, they might like more of a hard book, right? They might either like the hardcover or they may want to have the paperback. So as well as being able to listen to it in their ears when they go for a run. So you need to actually have a strategy to publish and distribute. This is not something where you just say, oh, I think I'm just going to do this because. So make it something that's part of your plan. Plan to publish and prepare. I always say prepare to publish. Have a plan. Okay. So if you're out and about in your industry, business, organization, or your career, okay, and decide, are you going to be a one-hit wonder with your book, or are you going to want a writing career? How are you going to talk to people about your book? What is it that you want? Is your book going to be a lead magnet for your business? So you tell people that you're an author and it elevates you in your industry. Are you going to be a thought leader in your industry with your methodology or your secret sauce? Or are you going to try to help a particular target audience within your industry? How about an organization? I'm editing a book right now for someone who's on the board of an organization that's a nonprofit, and actually all the pieces are being supported by the donors, and they're having a gala where that book is going to be on the table at every place. So what is it that's going on for you in your book? Is it a project where you actually feel like it has more legs, and so you actually need to use it to speak, for example? Get that speaking platform just as elevated by the book. That book can really be the difference. I'm also a conference producer and I actually am on our committee for speaker selection. 9 times out of 10, the speaker with the book gets selected. And it doesn't matter if the other speakers without the book don't have a book, but sometimes the person with the book sucks. And, surprise. So you want to make sure you're the person who is the one with the book, because you'll probably get noticed faster. Okay. We talked about hardcover, paperback, ebook, audiobook. And for me, one of the things you want to do is you want to sell books, right? But when you sell books, you want to figure out, oh, we're releasing this, we're releasing this, we're releasing this, we're releasing that. So you want to always have news to sell more books. Like I have a middle grade author who is a fiction writer. Okay, she's written a novel. She's working on the prequel right now. And what she did instead, while she's working on the prequel, is she actually created a spin-off from the middle grade book, which is actually a cookbook. And it's a spiral cookbook, the one I mentioned. And so she actually went to an event with the book that was published, the novel that we helped her publish. And then she actually went with pre-orders for the cookbook to an event that she was actually appearing and speaking in and signing. Okay, so when we talk about strategies now, okay, I want you to think about the various audiences and the various opportunities you have and the markets you can speak to. So let me go through this, you know, just in the interest of time, because I want to get to your questions. You want to leverage your book. So think about it. Do you have a primary, secondary, tertiary audience or an outlier audience? Identify them all. What are the opportunities that you have? Do you have it so that you could actually make a bundle for the holidays? Do you have something that's a back to school kind of product? Do you have something that's a summer escape kind of, novel that's either romance, or thriller, ooh, one of those. Like, what do you have? What are your opportunities? Do you want to speak? Do you want to use that book to speak, like I was talking about? Do you want to use it in your business? Do you want to use it with your clients? Who are your markets? Where is your marketplace? Is it US only? Is it English speaking only? Could it be translated for foreign rights? There are so many opportunities. Okay, don't forget about digital marketing and promotion. Remember what I was talking about? There's so many digital options now. The world is flat in publishing. It is not only go down to your local bookseller and try to get in the brick and mortar store. So they're endless. So people are marketing just some fast ideas. First chapters being read live on social media feeds. You know, those reels, they really work, and live is available on Instagram and Facebook. And don't forget about Pinterest, because I know we had a great webinar for that here as well. Virtual literary events are drawing lots of people, and publishers are tracking consumer behavior and data. We're paying attention. Something on Instagram to think about is a hashtag Bookstagrammer. More than 12 million posts show up under that hashtag. Booktubers, you're on YouTube. Alexa mentioned YouTube, right? Create an online community. And even Michelle Obama marketed her memoir using booktubers for Becoming. Okay, last piece. So you tell me, okay, Jennifer, my book is a film. My book is a TV series. My book is an episodic series on Netflix. My series is a limited series on HBO. It could actually be a Broadway show, a musical, one-woman show. Terrific. You're right. It can. There are lots of ways that these stories lift. And just think about it. You want to be in the media. Fantastic. Are you a freelance writer? Are you getting paid to freelance write, or are you paying to be on somebody else's site? Because if you're a freelance writer and you want to make more money, we do a freelance writing mastery program where we actually teach you how to write so you can build your platform, especially you nonfiction writers, so that you can get published, so that you can actually build a following. One of our clients that we worked with actually wrote an article and has 2 articles that are sitting up at HuffPost Personal right now, waiting to be published. We have another person who did our book proposal clinic, took one of the tips away from our marketing and promotion section evening, recorded a video, never done a video before, released it, has over 1 million views on that video. So media is all about media. It's about Hollywood, television, film, stage, online. The world is just endless when it comes to your story. So don't forget that. I offer office hours. Office hours is something, you can see my post. I'll put it back in the chat again. It's up at the top if you came in late. So we actually offer an opportunity for you to talk with me in a 30-minute or 60-minute appointment about your particular project. And I'm happy to do that. I'm the only industry professional who offers office hours. And as writers like to say, I'm the ally writers didn't know you needed. So I'm happy to help you work yours. Like I mentioned, I'm a part of the Editorial Freelancers Association, and we do clinics, and I offer all of these different things so that you can understand how we can help. I do run a workshop. It is 10, Alexa, it's 10 years old, or actually it's more than that now. We're in our 11th year of the Next Bestseller Workshop. We only work with 8 writers. You can go to the nextbestseller.com. You do get a discount if you're part of Women in Publishing Summit. The WIP 10 code is for 10% off. And we do offer that once a year now, only in November. So it's virtual. You do it from home, but you'll work with Hollywood producers. You'll also work with literary agents, editors, publishers. You'll work with us for the weekend and understand how to pitch. And then you'll do it on Sunday. You'll pitch an entire cross-industry panel. And it will rock your project and it'll change your life. Make It Happen room is a writing room. You want to write with me? I've got lots of people that love to do that. You can use the first one free code. And you can basically go to Your Book Is Your Hook and see that. And join us. We do it every Thursday night. I also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, and I'll put that in the chat for you. And this is how you can reach me. And so I'm going to put my information in the chat again. And I'm going to stop the share so that I can answer your questions. So we make the best use of our time. Okay, so the first question is, does the manuscript need to be formatted properly before submitting it for editing or for an agent? So editing, I guess it depends on the editor is my answer. And the reason I say that is that you want to put yourself in a position where you find out how the editor works. So most editors that I know would say no, because we're editing the content. If you're polishing like me, that's when you put it in your final form. For an agent, yes. Agents want a manuscript that is properly formatted according to what they have requested. And if they haven't specified it, then you need a professional editor to help you understand what they want. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this is a great question. Thank you, Diana, about the prologue. If you're going to submit the first 3 chapters and you have a prologue, it depends on how long your prologue is. Is your prologue actually, so here's the trap of a prologue, okay? Someone reads your prologue and says, well, this should really be the first chapter. Then she hasn't structured it right. Nope, I'm going to reject that. And so usually I always ask people, is the prologue an integral part of your book? Oh yeah, they have to read the prologue in order to set it up. And then I say, well, why isn't it the first chapter? You should be answering those questions for yourself before you submit it. Because if you're going to submit the prologue, they may say they want a certain number of pages. I can tell you, if you're going to submit to Folio Literary Agency, Literary Management, you're only going to submit 5 pages. Are you going to submit the prologue? So these are things that you want to think about. So that's my answer. And you need to figure out if that prologue is this integral part of your story, because if it is, then you have to submit it. But if you only get 5 pages, then that's all they're going to see. Okay. Let's see. It is best. Okay, so this is Erin. Yes, I did. I said that it's best to submit your manuscript to traditional publishers through an agent. So small and medium publishers, yes, it still has to be the best version of your book that you can get it to yourself. Okay, the reason why is small and medium publishers that are not going to charge you to actually publish the book, they're going to judge your manuscript or your book proposal based on the quality they receive. So if they don't see, or they see it needs a whole bunch of work, they're not going to publish it. They're not going to actually allow you to do that. So it's going to give you an opportunity to really make sure that you submit your highest and best work. That's what we want to see. We want to see your highest and best work, including small and medium publishers. Because if you think about it, they only do this for 10, maybe 8 books a year, maybe 10 books a year. It gives you an opportunity to really shine, or you're not, and they're going to tell you, no, you need to go somewhere else or self-publish. Okay, so what kind of sales numbers do you recommend that you have? 10,000. Have you sold 10,000 books? Have you sold 20,000 books? If you come to me and you say, okay, I'm ready for an agent, and I'm going to ask you, okay, how many books did you sell in the first 3 months? Not the first 3 years, not the first 6 months, the first 3 months. We want to know what happened when that book, single book, published, and then what happened in the first 3 months. If you can't tell us that you moved thousands of copies of that book in the first 3 months, that's a problem, because no agent or publisher wants to hop on a train that's not moving. This is a business, not a favor business. And it's not a business where just because you wrote it and it's a super great book, that they're going to take it. It has to sell. If you can't prove that you can't sell, then basically you're going to find yourself in a trap. That's why I'm saying to you, the unpublished author has a better chance of getting an agent than someone who self-published. Okay, I think that's my best answer, Alexa, on that one. Okay, so Patty, I have a book proposal done with the first two chapters. Congratulations. Okay, and you want to submit to agents and publishers that don't require an agent. Okay, how do you get started? So what you need to do, this is my wheelhouse, and this is what I do as a consultant. But if you're going to do it on your own, you need to research your agents. You need to research publishers. You need to understand what your project is. You need to understand who they are and how you're going to identify what is your filter. What are they looking for? What do you have? How do you know that what you have is what they want? Don't just go. I had a guy contact me for the Literary Agent Matchmaker service, honestly, and he said, well, I just submitted to 200 agents and had a big smile. And I said, well, why are you talking to me? He said, because I keep getting rejected. And I said, how did you submit to 200 agents? I said, that's kind of weird to me. I said, what period? Oh, last week. I said, not last week. It was like 2 months earlier. I said, but when did you get rejected? Oh, a couple, like last week. And I said, okay. I said, 200 agents. How'd you do that? Oh, I hired somebody on Fiverr. I said, well, that's a big problem, because now you're not addressing each agent. You're not telling them what your book is about, because you're not telling them about it and why they would want it. And so that's part of why I say, go find the agents and publishers who are looking for what you wrote, not just an agent or a publisher. Okay. Is there a good rule of thumb for how much to be ready to personally invest for each publishing method? So as I mentioned, if you go traditionally, and you really traditionally, okay, you're going to go to a literary agent and you're going to go to a publisher, okay, and they're not going to charge you anything to actually publish the book. And so they're going to pay all the money, but you're going to get an itty bitty royalty, okay? So you might get 10%, you might get 20%, and if you have a literary agent, they're going to take 15% of whatever you do get in royalties. So you want to keep that all in mind, okay? If you self-publish, then you're going to be footing the bill for all of it. And so it depends if you need editing, if you need design, if you need help publishing, distributing. And we do all of those things, but it really is on a project by project basis. So editing is dependent upon how much you've written and how much needs to be edited. When we design and we publish, we actually help people anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 to actually get the book published and distributed, and design those files so that they can actually be in each place. And we actually help you. You own it all. When we do it with Your Book is Your Hook, you don't have a Your Book is Your Hook publishing on it. You actually own it all, and we help you actually understand how to set up yourself as a publisher and how to own it all, so that any money that comes back goes to you, not us. We're paid up front. Others charge $7,000. Others, we just had somebody who designed something, and they charged the client before they came to us $4,000 just for the design. And we were like, what? Okay, so if you let's go to the next one. is there a good rule of thumb for how much to be ready? Oh, we just did that, sorry. If you self-published on Amazon, want to get your books into bookstores and libraries, would you get that? Okay. Nope, you don't get around that by mass buying your own book and then distributing it. That's not a good idea. That's something I would say, that's a good place for an office hours appointment, because we actually do that. We have people come to us that actually have published on Amazon, aren't moving their books, and basically need to get it out. And you need to get it into the global wholesale network, but you also need to get it onto other sites as well, so that you can understand how to publish it. And that's one of the things that, depending on the style you have, like if you were going to go to something like Lulu, which I like them a lot, and you have a spiral bound book as an example, you can't distribute that in the global wholesale network. So that's a problem. So there, you really need to understand how to publish and distribute, but it's not through just mass buying and doing it yourself. But you can do that, and you can sell it at book fairs and all different places and spaces you are. Your website and other places like that, you can do that as well. But it's not a workaround for bookstores or libraries, because it's going to be hard for you to sell a bookstore that you want them to take your book unless they're a consignment store. Okay. Audiobooks can be anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000. They might be more. They could be something where it depends on the company. And it is worth the investment if they do it correctly and if they distribute it correctly, because that's the objective of an audiobook. Plus, it creates news for you, but it really is a long-standing digital product, a digital asset for you, if you will, in your portfolio for that book. So is it a good investment? Absolutely. It's a great investment. Okay. So ebooks for children is great. Children are coming up as infants into the digital space more quickly than ever. So having an ebook for children, they're going to be on daddy or mommy's device. They're going to be on it in the car. They're going to be on it on a trip. They're going to be on it on a plane. So just remember, mommy and daddy can't carry enough books on the plane to keep their child entertained on that 6-hour flight to California from New York. So ebooks, absolutely. We don't have enough time to talk about how to get your book into libraries today. If you self-publish, how do you make money having readers check out your ebook through the library? I'm not sure I can answer that in the time we have. So I want to answer Mary's question about what do you mean by a deck of cards? So a deck of cards is actually a deck of cards. They sell them in the bookseller, and they also sell them online. And I'll give you a great example. One of my clients is a pair of organizers, and they actually created a best-selling book, which we helped them with. They also are not only best-selling authors, but I challenged them to create a deck of cards, and they created the first time-based deck of cards in the organizing space. And here they are. Organize your home 10 minutes at a time. And they basically are, you open it up like this, and here's a deck of cards, and here's like one of the cards, which is a wild card. This is actually how to clean your glove compartment in 4 steps on a card. Decks of cards are great. They're great for nonfiction. They're great for kids. They're great for even for inspiration, affirmations. People do them all the time. Okay, digital cards. So there is a new company that is out that is actually like Audible for decks of cards. And we actually help people create cards in the digital space. So that is something that's terrific. We actually help consult for how to create your cards and actually put them together in a set that makes sense for your particular type of information. And that gives you a chance to double down on the ideas that you have and to make a rounder, larger offering for the particular story, inspiration, education, or motivation that you have for the people that you wrote your book for. Okay, so Alexa, I'm going to try to answer like one or two more really fast.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
You got it.
What do you recommend for beginners building an author platform? Pick one channel on social media and just use the heck out of it. Learn the heck out of it and use one. Just get good on one. Okay, you have got to be able to get good on one. Get a mailing list. If you don't have a mailing list on your website, you're missing out on every single person that's ever touched your website. Start making a plan. We create a marketing plan. We did it, for example, for an illustrator and an author for a children's book. And basically they executed 80% of our plan, got all the money back that they spent, not only on the plan and us, because we actually helped them. They decided to self-publish. But they actually, use the plan. I mean, it's, you've got to be able to understand it's a month by month building process that you build it out. So make a plan. And then let's see. I talked about decks of cards. Ask me about that. I put the link for office hours in the chat. I'll put it in there again. If you want to schedule with me or you want more information, you can go there. So how many drafts of your memoir do you need to write? I don't know the answer to that. You need to write it until it's done. We're actually going to be talking about memoir mastery, Alexa, I think at WIP. So I will be teaching that. And if you are a first-time writer working on a novel, let's talk about fiction. Yes, there are word counts that are required for different sets of information. I talk about that during the query letter clinic. So you can also look at that. If you go to yourbookisyourhook.com, you can look at our clinics, our webinars, our workshops, and office hours. Alexa, I think I'm out of time.
You got a ton of questions, and man, you flew through them with some great answers. I want to remind everybody, I hope that you have your ticket to the conference. If you don't, be sure to get it. Jennifer will be there, and we're featuring our sponsors in sponsor booths where people will be able to hop in, and it's for a whole hour, just ask questions in a meeting room with our sponsors. So if you had a question today that she didn't get to, if you want more information on a question, make sure you block your calendar on the schedule for the sponsor Q&A sessions, the sponsor booths that we have on the 8th at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. And I think Jennifer is scheduled at 1, but you'll get all of that information via email and on the events page and all of those. And do take advantage of that time, because you can come in and just have some, you won't be in a webinar, you'll be in the actual breakout rooms together. So you'll be able to have conversations. So I think that will be really helpful. But such great information. And I mean, so much feedback, so much, wow, lots of comments, lots of questions, lots of all the things. It's a really, obviously a really important topic that people are thinking about. And, what's really the point of writing a book if you're not going to take advantage of all the other things that your book can be a hook for? So I'm so excited about what we have to come in March at the conference. Thank you, Jennifer, so much. She's dropped her information a couple of times, and I will make sure actually to copy that. I'll do that before I end the webinar and put that in the replay email so that everybody has that information. And we're going to have a great time and really dig deep into all these topics at the conference. So we hope we will see you there. Jennifer, you're amazing. You have such great knowledge. Thank you again so much for all that you do for our community. And everyone else, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. See you at the conference.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.